Plainfield, Wisconsin, 1957, a rural farmhouse on the edge of nowhere. Inside, authorities found grotesque relics, masks made of human skin, bowls carved from skulls, furniture upholstered in flesh.
They called him the Butcher of Plainfield, Ed Gein, a man whose monstrosities left off the grave and into the nightmares of Hollywood.
Tonight on the Fear Archive, how Gein's grim obsession with death gave birth to Norman Bates, Leatherface, Buffalo Bill, and more. And yes, somewhere in here we'll have to say it. No pain. No Gein.
Welcome back to the Fear Archive, the podcast where we exhume the past, one creepy case file at a time. True crime? We've got it. Paranormal? Always. Movies based on real nightmares? Oh, absolutely. And tonight, we're talking about the man who inspired all your favorite movie maniacs. Norman Bates, Leatherface, Buffalo Bill. Yep, it's Ed Gein, or as we like to call him, the Bob Vila of bad vibes. A real DIY king of horror.
This episode includes discussion of murder, grave desecration, and body mutilation, including descriptions that some listeners may find disturbing. We'll also be touching on mental illness, gender identity misconceptions, and the way these themes have been sensationalized in popular culture. Listener discretion is strongly advised today.
All right, so before we dive into the cinematic carnage, let's talk about the real Ed Gein, the man behind all those infamous movie maniacs. And yes, the real story is somehow worse and kind of sad. Our main source for this section is Harold Schechter's wonderful book, Deviant, which I strongly recommend everyone picks up. It's basically the definitive book on the case.
If you're only familiar with the guy who wore people version of the story, Schechter's book fills the parts that are somehow even weirder, sadder, and darker. So let's rewind back to the early 1900s in rural Wisconsin, where this all started.
Yeah, so Edward Theodore Gein was born in 1906 in La Crosse County, Wisconsin. And if you're imagining a happy Midwestern childhood with fishing trips and apple pie and John Candy, delete that image immediately. John Candy wasn't born yet, but I just think of him with the Midwest. Anyway, so that wasn't happening. So Ed's father, George, he was an alcoholic who couldn't hold a job. And his mother, Augusta, she was a religious zealot version of a helicopter parent, if you can imagine that.
Yeah, Augusta basically treated her husband like dirt and her sons like sinners in training. She preached that women, except herself, of course, were rooted in all evil. The devil's incarnation of, human. Think of the most intense Sunday school teacher you've ever had and then cranked it up to 100.
Yeah, she was a real piece of work, but old Ed loved her so much. So when Eddie was around 8, the family moved to a 155-acre farm in Plainfield, Wisconsin. Total isolation. This is like cut off from absolutely everything. No neighbors, no visitors, no social life. Everyone contained within that little house. The house itself would later become infamous. It's a sagging, unpainted farmhouse surrounded by cornfields and swampy woods and, God, just endless silence.
Yeah, Schechter describes it perfectly in Deviant, a gray island in the sea of desolation. You can really feel the chill in reading just that line of how desolate it really was in the Midwest.
So Ed wasn't an only child. So Ed had that brother. He had an older brother named Henry, and the two of them, they worked the farm. They lived under Augusta's strict rule, and they developed this odd dynamic. Henry started pushing back, though, hitting those rebellious teenage years, calling out their mother's fanaticism, and then came the forest fire incident.
So in 1994, Ed and Henry, two brothers, they were burning brush on the property. If no one knows, this is like a typical controlled burn, so you can prevent forest fires, which we love preventing those. And later, Henry was found dead, face down, unburned, but he had bruises all over his head. The official cause of death was asphyxiation, but Ed led the police straight to the body, like he knew where it was.
Yeah, I don't mean to digress too much talking about this, but this was one of the aspects of Ed's life and Ed's story that always creeped me out. I don't remember the exact true crime book, but I had like this pulpy thing that I think I got at like a dollar store years ago. It was like an
Mm-hmm.
encyclopedia of serial killers. And they always started the story with an old Ed's brother, because it was such a classy book. They're like, an old Ed's brother ran screaming into a forest fire and met his end that way. But yeah, like it wasn't until I read Schechter's book that this whole thought about Ed killing his brother is kind of creepy too. Like, I know, again, I'm digressing a lot
Mm-hmm.
here, but like,
No,
I personally,
I don't think you're digressing. I mean, I think it's an important thing to look at when. I mean, we'll get to this a little later, but I mean, he's not
Ed and
technically
Mama,
yeah, he's not technically a serial killer, right?
right,
But
just did not.
I mean, who knows what he was doing? I mean, this was this his first kill, but we can get to that a little bit later. Um,
I think
I,
Ed didn't want to share Mama. Like that's the thing. That was my like
well,
Ed, no competition.
I don't think it was about sharing. I think it was more of Henry was talking shit about Mama. You know, just two boys in the woods doing their chore, burning the brush. And, you know, like we said, like Henry was starting to like push back on like all the rhetoric that his mother is saying. And his frontal lobe was probably starting to develop a little bit more. And he was coming up with his own thoughts and ideas. And for sure, I think Ed was really unhappy with him talking poorly about their mother that he really, idolized.
Yeah. So this is nothing happened. So, Henry's dead. The police did not investigate.
Typical
Um,
small town.
mm.
Mm.
And this was just really the first sign of Ed's capacity for violence.
And then in 1945, just a year later, Augusta had a stroke. Ed helped nurse her through, and she died the next year. That was kind of the breaking point. Um, the one person who he really looked to and held him together and guided his life. And now he's just alone
Yeah.
on the
That
farm.
and that loneliness, that isolation, I mean that is something that I always think about with this story, and I know before you said that, Ed Gein really isn't a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
There's something else. Is he a product killer? Sure, and we'll get to that later. But Ed is just this, out of all of them, all of these monsters in the pantheon of true crime monsters, I think Ed is the more sympathetic monster. I still don't
Mm-hmm.
feel sorry for him. He still killed, at least that we know of, two innocent people. But um, back to this all. So after Augusta's death, Ed locked up her bedroom like a shrine. He kept it pristine, museum quality. Um, Literally sealed it off from the world. Everything else in the house fell into disrepair, though. He lived in a few filthy rooms in the house, and that was it. That's when things really went sideways. And I mean, anyone who's ever been alone for an extended period of time, I mean, you know how that isolation and solitude, sometimes could really fuck with your head, right?
Yeah, and according to Deviant, Ed started reading lots of pulp magazines, crime stories, body snatchers' tales, and twisted medical articles, where I think a lot of the next part came from. Um, yeah. So, should we get into the
Yeah, let's
darkness
talk.
of it all?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it, because this is where the piece that's it's often a huge misconception with this story. This is where this comes in. So you know there was this is where the rumors come in, right? Do you want me to take this? Like, there's the gender dysphoria piece with the story, right? It's important to note here, though. Gein wasn't trans. All right, Schechter makes that distinction very clear. He was confused, delusional, and trying to literally become his mother, not transition into a woman.
Yeah.
So, so his woman suit wasn't about gender identity. It was about power, control, and trying to resurrect the only person he ever truly loved. Basically, he wanted to crawl inside her skin, and metaphorically and disturbingly literally. Um, yeah.
Between 1947 and 1957, Ed became the local handyman in his little town. He was quiet, polite, good with odd jobs, the kind of guy people described as harmless. But meanwhile, he was actually robbing graves that night.
Yeah, Schechter recounts that old Eddie would dig up freshly buried women who reminded him of Augusta. So middle-aged, stocky, often resembling her physically. He'd take the bodies home, he'd dismember them, and use the skin and bones for projects. So good old Ed, he was loved his arts and crafts.
Yeah, he was definitely handy. His projects included lampshades, masks, bowls, and famously that corset made from a torso. Uh, it's kind of things that makes you want to stick a fork into your eye after seeing it.
Yeah, and there's plenty of documentation of that. Like there are photographs of Ed's nightmare dungeon. No, it wasn't really a dungeon, just his farm of fuckery. Um,
But like
you know,
you have to imagine like how bad it must smell. Like he's digging up bodies.
yeah, it probably didn't smell great. But he was also kind of like trying to embalm them a little bit. Like he was taxiderm them, right? Like
Yeah.
and we'll get to this later. Like he was treating human bodies like deer that he'd go hunting and kill.
Mhm.
Again, we'll get to this more later, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was very much they were very much objects. So I guess you know he's we think of Ed Gein, we associate him with a serial killer. I'm going to give pushback on that. I don't think he's a serial killer. I think what is it from Bride of Chucky, where the guy's like he's got to knock off a few more to get that title, or is that from Scream? I don't even know. But drop it in the comments, guys. Anyway, but where I'm going with this is Ed was definitely a product killer, and for our audience, what a product killer is they're literally killing to get the product, and we're getting to the murders right now. So the murders started in 1954. First victim was tavern owner Mary Hogan. She just disappeared one day. And the locals joked, this is the funny thing, locals joked that Ed probably had her up at his place.
No.
They didn't realize how right they were, though. Like sometimes when you say that guy's fucking creepy, and I bet he's got bodies in his attic, sometimes he does.
Yeah. I mean, jokes on them because it wasn't a joke, right? Like
Right.
it's really sad that they don't just take their intuition and actually go look into it. Again, I think back then they didn't think things like that would happen, but from our experience from just doing the pod for this long, I think a lot of spooky shit happens on farms, guys. Uh so anyway, on November 16th, oh my god, that's my wedding
That's my
anniversary.
birthday!
And your birthday.
Fuck, man, that's how I know. Like this is the right episode to be doing right now. It's the simulation talking to us, Amanda.
I know. Okay, so on November 16th, 1957, Bernice Warden vanished from her hardware store. The cash register was open, there was a blood trail, and the last sales slip was made out to, you guessed it, Ed Gein.
Oh, Eddie fucked up.
He really,
So
like, how smart was he? Like, I feel like he just saw red.
I don't even know if it was
I don't
that.
know, but like,
he there were some. All right, Ed's, and I
we'll
again
get
I will.
to it. I know. We'll get to his allure of like seeing a woman and being like, oh.
Oh, I'm not apologizing for old Eddie's crimes, but I feel like old Eddie didn't fully grasp being a polite, civil human. Okay, so I just made him sound like Ronald Reagan. All right, so sheriff's deputies raided the farmhouse that night. And what they walked into uh, is the stuff of nightmares, folks. So Bernice Warden's body was found in the shed. And this is like an image that, like, when we'll get to the movies, but like this is one that's absolutely represented in a couple of them. She was field dressed. Do you know what that means, Amanda? Field dressed?
No, tell me.
So it's like a hunting term. She was literally hung up and hollowed out like a dead deer. She was hanging from the shed. She was decapitated, bloodless, and a husk of a body. Inside the house, they found artifacts made of human remains. They found a mask of Mary Hogan's face, a belt made of nipples. Take that, Gucci. Furniture upholstered in human skin. So I want to throw something in here too. So I wonder, there is, so Ed's fascination with the pulpy true crime magazines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ed was obsessed with that stuff. And there was talk of like shrunken heads. And then there were like these articles of like Nazi death camps and how Nazis made like lampshades out of human skin and things like that. And I wonder if that inspired Ed. And that is the thing. That is the pushback I will give, where I think Ed had his faculty. Like if he could, I don't know, like I don't think like there was like some sort of developmental disability with Ed Gein to an extent, you know? Like I think he was consciously doing these things. He was like inspired by what he read. I don't know. Maybe I'm digressing too much. How do you feel
No,
about that, Amanda?
I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't know. It's like he didn't have anyone there. Maybe his mom was his, North Star in a way to tell him like what was
Ed,
right.
don't make a lampshade out of a pussy.
Well, yeah, but like to tell him like what was right and what was wrong, right? Like, I mean, and now he's just floating and reading these magazines and no one's telling him like, hey, Nazis were bad and that's wrong and you shouldn't make lampshades out of skin.
Was Ed Gein the original incel?
Patient zero.
Yeah, was he patient zero? Oh man.
But truly though, because like no one was there. No one's there to say, hey, bro, not cool. Let's not make nipple belts. But also just
You can't
you
milk him, Ed.
got, got
I'm sorry.
nipples, fucker. Can you milk me? But anyway, yeah, so the whole thing's so fucked up, right? I
Yeah.
think we can all, and like I feel bad for the folks that were laid to rest peacefully and dug up, and then terrible things were done with their remains, and the victims. Obviously, it's just kind of it's horrible what he did to them, and I think every woman fears something like that happening. Right? This is where the nightmare fuel has come from for women.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I
Yeah.
do want to throw something out about Ed, though. It's a common misconception about him as well. There are a lot of misconceptions around this case. And, the biggest piece is it's going to come up, in fact, in the title of one of the movies we're going to discuss. He wasn't a necrophile. So, for our audience, brace yourself. So, if you don't know what necrophilia is, it's when you have sex with a dead body, right? Ed did not have sex with, well, at least from what we know, he was not practicing necrophilia. He was not having sex with the dead. He was really just, again, trying to become his mother. It's this fucked up story about loneliness. And I'm not sympathizing with him. I do not think he was a good person. He was horrible. He had problems. He was a horrible person, though, and he took life. He should not do that. That was not his, not
Let's hop
his role.
back on the timeline.
Yeah.
So the police go to his house. They walk in. They find all these horrible things inside his house. He confessed really quickly, saying that he robbed graves. He's killed both Hogan and Warden. And he claims that the rest of the remains were from the cemetery, though, like, no one really knows how many people were actually murdered in that house, and how many graves he actually dug up.
All right, so he
Yeah.
was declared legally insane and sent to Central State Hospital, later transferred to Mendota State Hospital. The reports from that time paint him as a quiet, helpful, and oddly content human being. So Ed liked to do so this is the thing that that Schechter talks about in his book is like Ed really liked to do like odds and ends around the hospital, and the staff liked him. They'd let him, they'd let him fix things, and he'd tinker and tinker. He was a tinkerer, whatever that is. I mean, I know what it is, but he liked to just, he liked to
Hmm.
play with like a shortwave radio, which is also
I
kind of
was just
eerie.
gonna say he's probably the kind of guy who takes electronics apart, and it kind of makes sense from what
So
he was doing. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
disgusting
and he
to
just
think about.
ugh,
Yeah.
yeah. I actually a really unsettling aside to that. I remember watching this documentary on the L.A. County Coroner's Office that AMC, not AMC,
Hmm.
A&E did years ago, and they interview one of the doctors, and he's like, as a kid, I always used to like taking things apart at my house, and my parents would get mad at me, and he's like, and now I do that for a living, and I don't have to put them back together. Anyway, um, but that's
Yeah.
kind of like that just
I
triggered the
think that,
thing that
yeah,
reminded me of
exactly.
Ed.
Well,
Of
yeah,
Ed.
exactly. Um,
So Ed liked to just hang out. He liked to do
yeah,
that. He liked to do chores. He loved to be helpful. He was
and
apparently very helpful.
he spent the rest of his life there, over 25 years, until he died of cancer in 1984 at the age of 77. He was buried back in Plainfield, not far from his mother, and his grave was definitely vandalized.
Yeah, that's like some fitting. Not I don't even want to say fitting punishment, but like it's just interesting.
So let me ask you a question, Mike. Do you think
Yes,
Ed ever had a chance at being normal, or was he doomed from day one?
I don't know. I think that like we still see the sort of character archetype like Ed Gein today, and I don't mean to revert back, but maybe I do. Like I definitely think there are plenty of people who they're kind of brainwashed by a certain ideology and it becomes them
Hmm.
a little bit and Ed was I don't know what I mean we know what Ed was looking for. Ed was looking for his mom. Like I guess where I'm going with
Yeah.
this is I I could someone like Ed Gein have been prevented? Could this have been stopped? I don't know. I don't think so. I think Ed
Hmm.
was doomed. I think Ed was doomed from the start.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it has to do with the small town, religion. Um,
Isolation.
yeah, his mom talking horrible about women. So,
But I am the only good woman, Edward.
yeah, and I think that, that has to do a lot with it because if you think about like talking bad about women, he doesn't see them innately as like human and worthy of living, quite honestly. Like, I don't know. I mean, how do you hear how horrible and deviant women are? Sexual beasts. And then, yeah.
So mom transcended that, though. Mom was almost like a deity to him,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
in a sense, up there with God and with the saints and
Mhm.
what have you. Like Ed worshipped her. I mean, he did, like flat out. He built a shrine. He built a church to his
Yeah.
mother, her bedroom,
Yeah.
and that's just so friggin' disturbing. And we're gonna get to it with the movies, but I mean, that was recreated in one of the more faithful of the films. Which hot take, I
Mhm.
actually don't love. So you guys are all going to hate me because I don't love this movie, but we'll get to that in a moment.
I
I
think
actually think it's
something yeah.
I think it's boring.
I think something interesting about the two women that he did, unfortunately murder, Mary Hogan and Bernice Worden, is they were both older, outspoken, and yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, do you think they were
Is it repressed?
similar to his mother? Yeah. Go
Yeah, is
ahead.
it repressed rage? Is it like
Yeah.
maybe I hated my mom? Maybe I like I'm murdering my mom and that's why I'm killing these women who remind me of my mom?
Or was he killing them to use their bodies to rebuild her? you know?
I don't know. I mean, then we like. I mean, I know I'm going to sound like I'm going to sound like all wishy washy and all over the place, like I'm flip flopping
Mm,
here. But like, like what was Ed's like capacity for
mm-hmm.
like just understanding what was going on? Did he understand that he wasn't going to be able to bring his mom back and that she was dead and that was it? Or did he really think that maybe from the perspective of like looking at her like she was some sort of deity, if I
Mm-hmm.
kill these women as a sacrifice to you, will you come back? Will
Yeah.
I not be alone? I think like ultimately loneliness is the root of the story, right? Like loneliness is, I think, what
Yeah.
drove Ed nuts. Loneliness could drive a person over the edge. And I think that's what the ultimate culprit in the story is: loneliness and isolation.
If this happened today in modern times, do you think he would be treated as mentally ill, or would the media make him to be like a straight villain?
I mean, it depends what media we're looking at. I
Today,
think,
I
yeah, no,
mean,
I mean,
no,
I
I
mean,
know what you're saying,
yeah, I think
but
both sides would
yeah.
paint a different picture, you know? But that's interesting. I've never thought of that. Like, where would
Mm-hmm.
Ed, if someone like Ed, if we found somebody living in rural Wisconsin, like right now, who has a flip phone and no access to Wi-Fi, and their mama died, and they have her sitting up in a room in the attic, and they're just abducting and killing women and making furniture out of them. Yeah, how is the world going to perceive the story? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I think there's going to be multiple interpretations on it. I mean, the big one, the consistent one should be like, okay, there's something very wrong here.
Yeah.
Do you think this could happen today?
I don't see why it couldn't.
Do you
Do
think
you know
there's
what
an
I'm
Ed Gein
saying?
right now?
I mean, who knows, right? But I would hope not, obviously, for obvious reasons. But
Is he hanging out with Paul Bateson? Drop it in the comments, Paul. We're still waiting.
but I think like uh there's still so much rural America, and I think a lot of people don't realize it if you live coastal, but there's a lot of places that are still not fully developed, and it's just straight farmland, and there's not people for miles and miles and miles, acres even, right? So yeah, it very well could be. In today's modern times, this happened. The big difference would be DNA testing, and they would be able to get all of the goods he created for his Etsy shop,
Yeah,
and
it's modern
be
art
able
masterpieces.
be able to identify who these folks were. I mean, I don't know. How do you even get into grave robbing? Like, how did he even come up with, oh, let me just dig this up? What?
It was just again, it's like one of those like those arguments where you got to throw out that, oh, it was a different time. Like, really though, but I do have to say, Amanda and I, we grew up on Long Island, and there is a really creepy story that will always. There's two really creepy stories that stuck out to me that involved grave robbing that happened when we were like right out of high school,
I'm
and
so
like,
interested to hear what you
oh my God,
say. I
look up
don't
these
even.
stories. There's no resolution to them. So this one, we grew up in a town that's like right on the border of Nassau County, and it's like suburbs. It's like we did not grow up in like a rural area. We grew up in like a
Mhm.
populated area. And do you remember the like cemetery road with just like it was
Mhm.
like one cemetery after another? It was the
Mhm.
spooky as shit. Well, somebody robbed a crypt at one of those cemeteries and stole like an 80-year-old woman's body, and
Oh.
they never found it.
Mm.
Could you imagine that? And the family like put a reward for this woman's body.
It's really
They never,
sad.
yeah, like who the fuck does that? And then, you know,
And that
I think
was in the early aughts.
yeah,
That's
that was like
like not
two,
that's
2002, 2003.
yeah.
Yeah. And then there was this story. I mean, this one's a little different. It's not really funny. That's a fucked up way for me to preface it. It's not funny. A bunch of kids got drunk and they dug up a historical grave and they took a bunch of skeletons to a party and just sat him down on
That's
the couch. It's kind of like
so
something like Dylan would
fucked
do in
up.
background noise. But
That's so fucked.
they got arrested. They got arrested. Yeah, and it was like some kind of like really big crime because it was like a historical grave.
But
Um,
I mean, they're digging up a body.
It was
I
like some
mean,
old timey actor too. It was like the first actor from silent films. It's crazy. I gotta look up this fucking story. Hold on. I'm doing it. But Ed, it
so
wasn't an Ed
yeah,
Gein thing. It wasn't an Ed Gein thing.
yeah,
Long Island grave robbing teens. It's the next movie we're writing. Long Island grave robbing teens. Um, yes. Okay. So this happened in 2003. They dug up the body. Oh my God, this is fucked up. So for a Thanksgiving weekend party, the teens dressed Grandin's skeleton in a Darth Vader mask and glasses. He was an old silent film actor. Yes. His Elmer Grandin, and they call it a grave injustice. Sorry, Elmer.
yeah. Poor Elmer, like,
Oh
did not
Jesus.
deserve that.
Yeah.
Being laid to rest,
Darth
and
fucking Vader, man. You didn't even get to see Star Wars.
it's true.
All right, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right, so
I have a
Ed's dead.
question for you.
Yeah.
Would you rather spend a night in a haunted house or in Ed's mind?
Haunted house.
Same.
Yeah. I don't want to be in Ed Gein's mind. That sounds like a horrible place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
Do you think Ed knew what he was doing, or do you think like he had some warped perspective of reality?
I think, he had some sort of warped perception, but I think maybe he was manic in moments where he would come up with an idea in his head, in that big old noggin, and say, oh, yeah, I could do this to finish the project. And then he would do it. But I'm wondering if when it was all done, let's like take, for example, didn't he make a chair?
Yeah. That was amongst Ed's Deep Elm. Was it West Elm, not Deep Elm? Deep Elm was that emo label. And good old Ed Gein West Elm collection.
No, not the West Elm. But anyway, okay, so let's say he finished a project, right? Let's take his
Yeah.
skull bowls, for example. So he's finished with it. Do you think he takes a beat and comes out of his manic psychosis and then goes,
I want to eat some Cheerios.
well, no, like, oh, what did I do?
No, you're right. I don't think he did.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if it was just like a manic moment where he's just like has to finish it, has to get it done, has to do whatever it takes, or was he just really fucked up, right? Like, and he was very self-aware of what he was doing. I don't know.
I don't know either. It's a weird case, right? Like I just keep thinking about it too. I'm like, I think about like the fact like, well, he read all these
Mm-hmm.
he read all these stories, and maybe for a person who like was already kind of impressionable and childlike, did it push him over the edge, or was he just like, I don't care, I just want to do what I'm reading about, it like gets me off? Was there like some sort of like sexual component to it, and was he just very aware? I don't know. Like I don't know. I think my gut's telling me that this guy was like a man child. Like he was and this is a good point. I think this is a good jumping point for us to connect this, right? To like movies. So that's the real story. The isolation, the farmhouse, the crimes, those projects, they'll projects that'll keep you from ever buying another vintage lampshade again.
Yeah, you might think again when you're at that estate sale.
Yeah.
And yeah, what came out of that little patch of Wisconsin farmland might be the single biggest pop culture ripple effect in horror history. Once the press got a hold of the story, the body parts, the shrine, the skin masks, he became some sort of like legend and some inspiration to filmmakers everywhere.
Yeah, we got to go with the OG one that really was the first. So Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock's masterpiece, but before that, it was the novel by Robert Bloch. So it was written before the trial even ended. So yeah.
Bloch lived about 35 miles from Plainfield, so the case was practically in his backyard. He takes all of the headlines, the lonely man with his dead mother, and turns him into Norman Bates, who basically the quiet motel manager version of your mom's worst blind date story.
And of course, we get the shower scene. Janet Leigh, Bernard Herrmann screeching
Legendary.
by. Yeah.
Iconic moment.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Yeah. The moment that horror went from castles and creatures to something painfully ordinary, like getting fucking killed in the shower.
Yeah. I love Psycho from a young age, which I probably shouldn't have been watching it, but my parents didn't know any better. I think the first time I was introduced to it was we were at Universal when I was a kid, and those like little like theater kind of things you could sit down and take a beat, sit in some air conditioning. So my mom saw one of those and brought us in, and it was all Alfred Hitchcock themed, and that's where I was first introduced to Psycho. It changed the DNA and how my mind worked. Thinking like how something like that could be created. I was probably 9.
I'm gonna throw out my hot take here. I listen,
Yeah.
Psycho. I acknowledge it's a great movie. It's just like one of those ones. Like I can't regularly watch it. I just don't. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm an asshole, and I think I'm like on the fringes of this, where like I'm gonna say that like I don't love I don't worship Hitchcock. I
I
do
get
like
that.
I respect him, and I've never seen Frenzy. I heard Frenzy is nuts.
Mm,
I recently watched Family Plot, and I really did love it. I feel like Walton Goggins needs to do a remake of that, but I'm
yeah.
not like I'm not obsessed with his stuff.
Well, I think when you think about it from a technique perspective and a storytelling perspective of films from that time and really making you anxious,
Yeah.
he really mastered it. But yeah, this I'm a
Is it
similar.
weird?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, is it weird that I love Brian De Palma though?
No, not at all.
But I'm gonna just do everything Hitchcock's doing, but I'm gonna make it a little sleazier.
100%.
I mean, that's just me. I just love De Palma.
Let's look at similarities between the film and the true crime for this one. We have a lot of films that we're talking about tonight, guys. So
Buckle up.
it's the same thing. Okay. Norman Bates, his domineering mother directly parallels with Augusta Gein. Both men preserve their mothers after death.
Both men live in isolation.
Yep. And there's like hidden horror inside an ordinary home. Although that home in Psycho wasn't very ordinary. It was creepy and up on a hill. So I don't know. Take what you will.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I definitely think that Norman Bates is a much more refined version of Ed Gein. Anthony Perkins was a very handsome gentleman.
100%. He didn't look like a farmhand.
Yeah. Not that we're not making farmhands. Eddie kind of like had a face that was weathered and looked like the side of a mountain, you know. That was old Ed Gein, you know. Norman was definitely a little more well put together. And just I don't know. I feel like, to be fair, the character Norman Bates, I feel like could assimilate into society a little better than Ed Gein. Although apparently, did you know this, Amanda? Ed Gein used to hang out with kids. That was like he was a babysitter.
I think that makes sense in my mind, like to what we were saying earlier about him and like I don't know. I mean, I think that there's definitely some mental illness in there where he was just like
Yeah, I think Ed's last night of
like he was like, by his mother. His mom treated him like a child, and he was a full-grown adult when all of this was happening.
but the whole town treated him like a child to an extent. Not in like, and I don't mean it in like they treated him like a child in like a belittling kind of way. Like they were just like, oh, old Eddie, he's harmless. Again, Psycho connection. He couldn't harm a fly.
Yeah.
He was, I don't think, and this is something that I vaguely recall from Schechter's book. I think that Ed was not arrested at his farmhouse. I think Ed was actually hanging out with the family of one of the boys that he babysat for. And he was having, I remember this specifically stuck out to me. He was having a pickle dinner. He was eating pickles. And, the sheriff came in and was like,
Don't
"Oh,
ruin pickles
Eddie,
for me.
Eddie, why don't you come take a ride with me?" Like they treated him like a child, like, "Hey,
Yeah.
Eddie,
Yeah.
come on, why don't you take a ride with us? We're going to talk to you about the women you murdered and the bodies you dug up and turned into furniture."
Fucked up thing.
I don't think they knew that yet, but there was
Yeah.
definitely, it was the Mary Hogan disappearance that that right. Um,
Yes. So do you think Psycho sanitized the horror or made it creepier by keeping it all psychological?
I think it stylized it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to tell you about my favorite one. I mean, there's so many more, but like the same year, not the same year Psycho came out, but like a few years later, um, we get the movie, which I'm going to throw it up. I'm going to preface it. I love this one, Deranged, with the subtitle Deranged: The Confessions of a Necrophile. So from the same guy who brought you Porky's, Bob Clark, R.I.P., and also Alan Ormsby. So Alan and Bob worked together on many of their early films, and they're both great. So many good movies. I'm going to digress, but yeah. Anyway, bold subtitle.
Yeah. I think so. Deranged, when we were talking about the episode, and that was the one I hadn't seen. But I watched it. Uh
Yeah.
and
Sorry about
yeah,
that.
I think it's no, it's interesting because it is so very close to an actual retelling of what he did. If anything, I think it was a little vanilla, quite honestly, to what it was actually what they found and what he did. But I'm really excited to do some other connections that I saw in this movie. But yeah, go ahead. It looks like you're ready to
Yeah.
say something.
Oh no, just like I just feel like Deranged like captured the spirit of the aftermath of like what happened, because after
Mm-hmm.
Ed Gein's crimes were revealed to the world, it just became like a newsflash, the
Yeah.
crazy necrophile living on farm in
I know that guy,
Wisconsin wilderness.
the narrator at the
Yeah, he's
beginning. I
literally
was like,
walking with
this
the
is so
camera. Yeah.
1974. What's happening?
Lampshades made of human flesh. It's that was the thing too. They actually asked Gein to jump back on the necrophilia thing. Gein said he never really liked being around dead bodies. He said, "Oh, they smell too bad." Which is
Yeah.
like it's horrifying, but also very pathetic, and creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the one thing I did like about this was how normalized they made him.
Oh, Les. They call him Ez too. Ez or
Yeah.
Cobb.
Oh, and I think the mom's name was Amanda. I was very offended. I was
Oh,
like,
fuck yeah. Yeah.
let's just take a moment to talk about that. No, thank you. But anyway, so uh, this movie was one of my favorite ones to watch and thinking about the actual true crime because, like I said, it was so accurate. It really captured it. But why do you think it's like the least remembered?
I just think that it was like one of those forgotten titles. Like as a kid, it took me so, I was obsessed with Tom Savini as a child. And this was I remember reading in Tom Savini's book Grand Illusions that this was the
Hmm.
first film that he ever worked on, this project. And it was impossible to find on VHS on Long Island in the 90s. Like you could not find this movie anywhere. Now, I'm not saying it didn't exist, but like it was impossible to find. I didn't see Deranged until I was like in my 20s, and I forgot who even released it on DVD. It might have even been like a budget DVD, but like I was like, oh my God, I've been wanting to see this movie my whole life up until that point, right? Um, so what makes this movie? Why isn't this movie known? I don't know. It's a really good movie, and it's very like it's
Yeah.
kind of meta. Like it really breaks the fourth wall at various points. I haven't watched I haven't watched the Ryan Murphy Ed Gein series, but I feel like it probably pays a little homage to Deranged. I feel like he's definitely seen it. Um,
Yeah,
you
but with
know,
his pizzazz, yeah,
yeah,
for
which is
sure.
fabulous. It's fine. You know, Ryan, we have some projects we would love to pitch to you. Anyway,
Right. Uh,
no, but with
but
Deranged, like the thing with Deranged too that like always stood out to me is just how as awkward as Ed is, he's normal. Like he's not Freddy
mhm.
Krueger. You know, like you
Well,
could see this guy at like
let
the gas
let me ask
station.
you this question: does the accuracy make the horror of it less effective? You know?
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Deranged like disturbed me. Like it's a movie that really upsets me. And like they also like they do twist a lot of the story around. They make
Yeah,
Ed's victims nubile teenagers essentially,
yeah,
you know, like that was also
yeah.
again the time, right? Like we have to have nudity in this movie, you know, we have to get people into the grind. It's a grindhouse movie. It totally is.
Mm-hmm.
Deranged totally is a grindhouse movie. And it is at times very tasteless. But it's also a very fascinating film. And hey, Amanda, did you recognize who played Old Ez?
Who was it?
It's the South Bend Shovel Slayer himself, Roberts Blossom from fucking Home Alone.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Wait, I did
Yeah.
not. I
Yo, do
didn't
you think?
recognize it. He didn't have his.
No, but do you think that like when they were making Home Alone, they're like, "Holy shit, guys! Do you know who we got to play the old man who lives next door and scares the shit out of the kids in the
Yeah,
neighborhood? The fucking Ed Gein himself."
who actually turns out to be a nice man.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Do
Yeah,
you?
he was also in Christine, by the way.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
sells Arnie the car.
Okay,
Anyway.
I made a connection while watching it.
Yeah?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Pearl
Oh shit. Totally.
sitting at the
100%.
table.
Fuck, why didn't we 100%. Yes. Pearl,
Him
what do you think?
smiling. Him smiling at the end.
Yeah,
Hi, if you're
yeah, yeah.
listening. We saw. I saw you.
Do you think like okay, do you think that if we're like talking cinematic universes here,
Yeah.
if Pearl and Ezra Cobb found each other at some point because they probably would be alive around the same time periods, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you think Pearl would have responded to Ezra in Deranged?
Yeah. You know what she would said? I'm married.
There would have been some bizarre love triangle.
I'm
Oh my god!
married.
Holy shit, though, that's an amazing connection. I never even thought of
Yeah.
that. Pearl,
Yeah.
Pearl is like OG, like that is I guess our most current.
Sitting at the table with the corpse and everything rotting and disgusting and trying to eat a meal. And then the way he was smiling at the end, they were like holding on it. And that infamous credits scene when Pearl of her just holding her creepy ass smile. Yeah.
But to Pearl's defense, she rebelled against it. Ed, I think, sort of. Well, hold on.
Yes and
Do you
no,
think?
but she was also repressed,
Yeah,
right? But she was more of a serial killer, so that's
but
different.
do you? But with Ed, we don't know. So in Schechter's book, I mean, they talk that like there is speculation that Ed may have killed more people. You know, there was
Mm-hmm.
even something very strange that happened. It was ruled out that it wasn't him, but at one of his stays in one of the institutions where he was at the end of his
Mm-hmm.
life, a woman was brutally murdered. A patient
Mm.
was brutally murdered, and all eyes went to Eddie. But
Interesting.
but they were able to rule him out as a suspect. I don't
Mm.
know though. I wonder. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it was only 2 people that he killed, or do you think he killed more people?
I mean, I think he probably killed more people, quite honestly. I mean, they didn't have DNA testing, and there was no way to know. There's no way to I don't even know if they it was such a small town. It's not like they're carbon dating things and figuring out oh, was this body the skin on this lampshade, was it, skinned post, while it was already in the ground for a long time, or was it, fresh? I don't know. It's disgusting. It's making me nauseous thinking
I
about
know
it.
it is really like I mean he's an enigma. Good old
Yeah.
Eddie's an enigma.
All
But
right, yeah.
we got more movies. We
I
got
know.
oh
Let's hop
shit,
to
we
the
got a
next
bunch.
one.
So Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
One of your
So
favorites.
I
Mm-hmm.
love it. I love it. But it's thin, right? Like there are the connections, right? The skin
Yeah.
masks and things like that.
Yeah.
But this movie was actually almost the same year of Deranged.
Mm-hmm.
So you get Tobe Hooper and his crew of filmmaking rebels down there in Austin, Texas. In between smoking pot and hanging out, they made a movie. So Toby takes the skin mask concept and he turns it into a sweaty, screaming, gasoline-soaked nightmare.
Yeah, and I think this is where like the Ed Gein myth really becomes American folklore. It's no
Yes.
longer just about one man, it's about the death of the American dream and one screaming teenager at a time.
It's the first horror movie that like Deranged did this too. I do have to give this like Deranged felt like a news broadcast too, but Texas
Yeah.
Chainsaw Massacre, it felt like a National Geographics or like one of those, like it almost felt like you weren't supposed to be watching this. Like I remember the first time I saw that movie, it felt like a cursed tape, Like it
Mhm.
felt like this
It
news broadcast from the end of fucking civilization,
it
But the funny thing
truly it
was,
truly was though because I think it was the the cinematic feel to it, right? Um Even though it was set on one location, it felt very large, very big, the location. And I think it's because you don't know where it started and ended, um, because it was a piece of property, right? And as opposed to like with Psycho, it's like you have the hotel and you have the house. This was different. You didn't know where they were going to come from. You didn't know where they could go. You didn't know what other parts of the property were secret. In many ways, it felt very authentic to where Ed lived.
and like it was just shot like a documentary. Like I mean, there was
Yeah.
it was shaky. There were lens flares. It's
Mhm.
gorgeous. Oh my god, I've rewatched that movie recently. It's just so gorgeous. It's terrifying still. I still
And
get very scared by that film.
the difference, though, let's talk about some of the differences. Like, obviously, Leatherface, he has mask made of skin, um,
Multiple.
but he wasn't trying to become his mother. This was a
No.
family. This was a family affair.
Yeah, no, it was totally a family affair. So there's that aspect too, like the aspect of family, but it's a different family dynamic than the Geins, for sure. But what do we have? We have the isolation
Yeah.
because it is rural Texas,
Uh
not
huh.
rural Wisconsin, but it's still rural, still isolated. It's a farm.
We have the masks made of human skins, body parts used as furniture and decor. Uh, did they ate people in
Yes, yeah,
this?
they were cannibals.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
Mhm.
sold it too at the roadside gas station. So
Right.
they were
Right. Right.
entrepreneurs. The Geins didn't do that. They didn't have a.
Yeah. They weren't a small business.
Actually, wait a minute. Hold on. Didn't they? Oh my god! I feel like they had a store in the beginning. Like I think Augusta had a store, didn't she? Like
I don't remember that
like a
detail.
grocery store in town. Oh my god! I gotta. All right, drop it in the comments if you know this. Yeah. Fuck. I gotta read this. I should have
One
revisited
other
this.
similarity they did have, though, was their farmhouse was full of human remains.
Oh yeah, no pain, no gain.
So I think we definitely know that was a similarity. Um, but yeah, Ed didn't eat them. He also didn't kill
No,
people with chainsaws that we know of. He was trying to, really save all those body parts. So I don't think using a chainsaw would be the best way. But
no, not at all. We still have two more. One's
mhm,
not a major one that we're gonna really speak long on, but the next big one that got a lot of press and a lot of coverage because it won a fucking Academy Award is The Silence of the Lambs.
1991. Uh, Polished, psychological, and pretty empathetic towards the victims, which is good. But yeah, definitely a movie that involved skin suits.
You had The Silence of the Lambs, you had Buffalo Bill, you had his dungeon where he kept
Mm-hmm.
and tortured his victims. There was that aspect of transformance, right? Turning into something else, which I feel like Thomas Harris does in most of his novels, whether it's Red Dragon or it's Silence of the Lambs, or it's
Mm-hmm.
it's there's that aspect of becoming this
Yep.
this evolved creature. right?
Trophy keeping, fascinations with skin and transformation. That's all similarities between the film Silence of the Lambs and Ed. Good old
Yeah.
Ed.
But again, I still think that Buffalo Bill was a little more calculated and much
Yeah.
more in line with.
Well, I think it's the modern version, right? Even though it was still in the
I
90s, but
No, I imagine so. I just still think, and I don't mean to
he was
knock,
sewing.
Ed's capacity.
He was a seamstress, a
Yeah,
tailor.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You could actually Airbnb that house.
Yeah, I'm good.
I
I
don't know.
know the pit was I know the pit was probably on set somewhere, but I'd like to think there was a pit still there.
They have it just full of like I don't know what it would be full, but there was another movie made in 2000 with Steve Railsback, who you might remember from your favorite episode of the X-Files, Dwayne Barry, the one when Scully gets kidnapped. That's Steve Railsback. He was in a bunch of stuff, but yeah, he plays Ed in this 2000 movie. Amanda, do you remember so Ed Gein came out, and then Matthew Bright made Ted Bundy,
Mm-hmm.
and then they maybe Matthew. I don't know if Matthew Bright either made Ted Bundy or he made the Gacy one, but like it was like within 2 years there were all these like direct-to-video serial killer movies, these serial killer biopics that are actually decent. They're not terrible. They're actually pretty good, but they sort of came out in the shadow of Monster.
Mm-hmm.
The one about Eileen Wuornos that it won an Academy Award, but like true crime fanaticists are kind of like, you kind of got the story wrong a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. So that movie exists too. And then, we have the recent TV legacy. There was an MGM Plus docuseries a few years back. You had the Bates Motel. You have
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Murphy's series with the guy from Sons of Anarchy.
One other little connection that I made was uh Jason.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Hearing his mom, idolizing her, having a little
He kept
shrine.
he kept the
Yeah.
trophies, right? At
Yeah.
least in the first few movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That is a
Yeah.
fantastic connection.
Yeah.
Nobody ever talks about that.
Yeah. There you go. You heard it
Yeah.
first.
So, yeah. So, I guess let's wrap these films up here. Like what?
Mm-hmm. So,
What?
what part of the story stays with you the most?
I think it's just I'm going to say this again, the loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think what he did was in any means acceptable or forgivable. He did unforgivable, horrible things, but he's a different kind of monster, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you strip away all the gore and horrible crimes, do you think this is just a story about grief and control?
Totally, but who's doing the control?
Well, it's him, right? He's trying to control his life in a way by controlling other women and also the graves he's robbing in a way.
Right, but in his head, isn't the spirit of his mother just controlling him and probably controlling him
That's
all the way to
true.
the end?
That's true.
Like you're right though. It is control, but
Mm-hmm.
is he trying to take the power back from
That's an
his mother?
interesting take. Yeah.
Yeah, was
Yeah.
this a rebellion against
Mm-hmm.
an abuse? So here, hot take, thinking about it in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a rebellion against an abusive parent? Because let's face it, Augusta was an abusive parent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Totally
Yeah.
abusing the shit out of her children.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe this was his way of rebelling? Because who knows what she was truly saying to him, right? In his head, obviously. But, uh, you never know. We won't know. I
We
did
won't.
I did see when I was doing my research, I saw some actual recordings of him talking to the police. And I mean, this is a little much, but they were talking about like, what were you thinking when you were preserving like the sexual parts of the women, and he was like, well, I was just painting them to preserve the skin. So like it wasn't anything like we said earlier, it wasn't like sexual. It was literally just some mental it was bad in mental illness of thinking like it's okay to do things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder how he convinced himself it was okay.
Yeah. No, I wonder that too. And I think this
Yeah.
is the open-ended question we're never gonna have an answer for it.
Yeah. Why do you think we keep going back to Ed Gein? Like what mirror does he hold up to us as a society? He's used in he's used as inspiration in so many horror movies, and because it was truly horrific what he did. But yeah, I don't know, we keep looking at it, right? So what do you think?
Is it just our fascination with death? Is it that? Is it our uncertainty of what happens to us after we die? Is it that? Is it legacy? Is it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh idol worship? Because remember, I still think that he saw, to an extent, he saw his mother as a deity.
Mm-hmm.
He saw her as a godlike figure. I don't even know what Ed's religious beliefs were. I mean, I guess he probably believed in God. I mean, his mother was always talking about like women being sinful, so that
Mm-hmm.
definitely like triggered. That definitely equates to some type of religious belief, right? But did
Yeah,
he see her as his god? I don't know.
quite possibly. When someone is that horrible to you and drilling things into your head of what your truth is, I think that's probably what can happen.
Yeah, and to answer your question, like, why are we still obsessed with this? I mean, I think it's that. I think it's just the uncertainty of knowing what exists after this life, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it has something to do with that, but we still see these stories. These stories still happen. I mean, there are very similar circumstances. Not as grand and wild as Ed's case, but of people living these lives. There was that kid in Connecticut. What was his name? Well, he wasn't a kid. He was like in his 30s, and the police found that the mother was imprisoning him in the attic for all those years. Oh my God, what was
Mm-hmm.
that? Did you remember hearing about that? That was like less than a year ago. That was
Yeah, I mean, I think like there's lots of stories like that where, these parents are putting children in cages and locking them and, not giving them basic human rights. And it's horrible. And I think there needs to be a lot of work done on those children that are treated that way. And I think back then, obviously in the 40s and 50s, they weren't providing that
yeah,
at
yeah, yeah.
all.
No,
Like,
it happened it was in Waterbury, Connecticut, the Sullivan case. It was, the guy was in prison for more than 20 years in his attic by his stepmother.
Jesus.
Yeah, that happened, that was, March 2025.
Ugh,
So, yeah, and they found him. There's like a police body cam walkthrough footage of it.
it's
But yeah,
horrible.
so let's talk about who got it right.
Yeah. Who do you
So, what do
think?
you think? If we're talking about accuracy, I think Deranged wins. No gloss, no
Mhm.
Hollywood sheen, just rural madness, dust, regret, nightmare fuel. How
Yeah,
about you?
I agree with that, but if we're talking about impact, I think Psycho changed cinema forever. Texas Chainsaw gave us horror language as we use it, and Silence of the Lambs made it mainstream. It won an Academy Award.
Yeah. But I guess if we are talking about the truth, the real psychological, spiritual truth of Ed Gein, I have to agree with you. I think Psycho still gets it. Not the violence, but because again, I'm going back to this, I'm defaulting, the awful, suffocating loneliness.
Agreed. I mean, it's not the skin mask that haunts you. It's the idea of someone eating cereal in an empty house out of a skull bowl, talking to a ghost that never answers back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mother!
Like,
Mother!
yeah. I still just can't get Jason out of my head with that.
I know.
But
I'm so obsessed with this now, thinking about the fact that there
yeah.
really is, there's a Jason connection to Ed Gein too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So it's that's Ed Gein, folks. He's not the boogeyman. He's not the slasher. It's the silence, the stillness. It's the fucking Midwest winter that never ends.
Yep. there it is. Psycho wins the most spiritual Gein award because the scariest thing isn't the knife. It's always the mother.
And on that note, go call yours, or at least say hi to her ghost.
Hi, Mom.
Hi. So, you've been listening to another episode of the Fear Archive, and I don't know. I'm gonna go. I want to go be around people now.
Yeah.
Other people. I don't want to be. I'm not gonna just hang out in my basement and rewatch Psycho.
You might.
The fucking
you might.
loneliness.
You might.
No, I might. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week. You've been listening to The Fear Archive, hosted by Amanda Kagawada and Michael Ryan Aesop, produced by Cassie Josephove, with original music by Umberto. This podcast is a production of Violet Hour Media.